50 billion. See how it escalates? It's 60-something billion now, and now it's going to be 650 billion? Why not? And then you've got Mitt Romney and Nancy Pelosi. Floating is incredible. And again, they're inflating the currency, but they buy up real stuff as it's is not taking action today and order a condensed group of videos. It's over an hour long total. By the way, we're trying to get him on. But here is just a few clips from the article.
Ammunition feeding devices. At the same time, grandfathers existing opposed to taking these deadly weapons off our streets. It would be illegal. Under this bill, if you give one of those legally owned firearms to a family,
it is absolutely critical. Here is a clip of the names of different people. Supplements, water filtration, air filtration, so much more. But for those of you that want to actually give us a straight.
Okay, back out. I'm gonna dig the hole for the weeping tile. Just gotta get the machine over there. I haven't started it in a while. Usually if you have a Detroit diesel and it's been sitting for a few months, well, I don't know, it depends if you're really running it, but if the thing sat for a year, you might want to take the valve cover off and hang on to the rack to make sure it's not going to run away. So I'll just let that build up pressure, and I changed insurance on my truck, so it was set to expire last month, and I would have had to with my current insurance provider, I would have had to pay the full amount up front, and didn't want to do that. The problem was I could only get it so this is a commercial truck, so it was just a cab and chassis truck, and it was imported from the States, and it was owned by a large construction company, so they imported a bunch of trucks and then used them in Canada, and I'm not sure how they insured them. They must have had their own insurance company or something going on. So anyway, all the insurance companies wouldn't insure me except Cooperators. They're the only company that was willing to underwrite the truck. And I had to say, yeah, I'm not using it for commercial purposes, and I'm not. This is just for, on the property to haul garbage and haul equipment and stuff I need. So it's all personal use, but it was a commercial truck. So Cooperators was the only one that could underwrite it for me. So I went with Cooperators the last 2 years, and I've been paying up front for the full year. And it's not a lot, it's like $800 a month, or $800 a year. So did 2 years of that, and then this year I don't have $800, so I was like, okay, well, let's see if I can get the insurance through another insurance company. So that's what I did. So I got it on a monthly plan, and thanks to Cooperators underwriting it, once an insurance company has underwritten the policy, then it's just like any other vehicle. You can insure it with another company. So they're kind enough to do that, and I stayed with them for 2 years, but I couldn't afford to renew the insurance this year currently. So I went to month with another service provider. And just make sure and change my insurance card. I'm not gonna show you who it is. And you know what's great about doing a diesel swap is you can get rid of all the spark plugs. Yay, spark plugs are gone. I don't have to worry about spark plugs anymore. If you're running a 5.4 liter, so Autolite makes a really good plug. Autolite plugs are really good. I don't trust the Ford factory plugs anymore. There's like knockoffs of the Ford factory ones. And I bought some right from Ford, and within a month the plugs were like shit. It just wasn't running good on those plugs again. Could have been because I had injector issues, but not with this one. Injector issues with the 5.4, the one sitting out on the pallet there. Could have been because I had injector issues. So I stopped using the Ford plugs, and I put in these E3 plugs. So these ones here. If you're looking for a good set of plugs for your Ford 5.4 liter E3, these plugs are, not that one, that's an Autolite, but these ones here are pretty awesome. A lot more power, better economy, and starting and running even though it's burning oil. So yeah, those E3 plugs are pretty good. Yeah, we're driving. I gotta drive that over, and then I gotta get my tools out. Just gonna put my headset on so I don't miss any calls. And I got some coffee left. So these Gradalls are pretty cool. So you can drive it from the cab of the Gradall, or you can drive it from the cab of the truck. So when it builds up air pressure, so here's the hydraulic motor to drive the Gradall from the cab. It's powered by the engine unit on the back there. So the engine unit on the digger unit, so the engine on the digger powers the digger unit, and then there's a big block here to power the chassis when you're driving down the road. And when the air pressure builds up, right there on the bottom, right there, this thing down here, if you can see that. So that air pot there pushes a little valve in, engages the PTO on the transmission. And this hydraulic motor runs to the PTO on the transmission, and then that powers the drivetrain. You have to have it in neutral in the cab, or else it'll be turning the engine over. So you put it in neutral in the cab. Air pressure builds up, pushes the PTO in, so you can drive it from the digger unit, and then it just runs through the transmission back to the so this is a high and low range. You just shift it from the cab. So right now it's in low range, so I can drive over the bumps, and it, you know, drives really slow with lots of torque, but I can switch it over so it drives a little bit faster with less torque, but I have it in high torque. And then here's my steering here. Here's my forward and back here. Check, make sure I got air pressure. So around 60 pounds is when it starts to engage the PTO and I can drive. The brakes kick off around 90. Make sure they're actually off. Sometimes the valve sticks when it's cold, but it's pretty good on a day like today. So forward and back, so back, here we go. And make sure I'm not going to run anything over like my smart car. Like a regular excavator, even while you're driving. I think it only has oh, maybe it's got a 4-stage pump on it, but like when you're running the hydraulics and trying to drive at the same time, it does slow you down. Could be because the pump is old, or maybe that's just taking too much volume. I fixed this machine up just well enough to use it. I rebuilt 2 or 3 rollers on it. It had good rollers on the side. I put those ones on the bottom. I made 1 or 2 of my own rollers, got some big bearings and some metal and welded it together and put those homemade rollers on the side of the arm, and so far it's all hanging in there pretty good. But compared to commercial use of this thing, you know, like every day, I haven't put that many hours in, but it's a pretty durable machine. Can't imagine too many things wearing out on it too quickly, as long as it's taken care of. Not sure about the new ones, but these older ones are pretty cool. Okay, so I gotta drive up and spin around and come at it from the back. I'm not gonna drive right up there yet because I gotta figure out where the tank is going. And it might be a little bit close to where I'm digging, yeah. A little bit too close. And the shutoff is the cable's seized, so I have an issue. I gotta jump back here and shut it off. If you're ever starting up a Detroit diesel, so if you're gonna start a Detroit diesel and you're worried it's gonna run away, like if it's been sitting for years and years, make sure your flapper's working. But if it runs away and you have to engage that, you're most likely gonna have to replace the seals. And yeah, and the shutoff is on the top. So there's a fuel line there, shutoff's over here. Haven't quite got it everything fixed on it, but it's in usable shape for the farm anyway, for the acreage. And those bullet holes aren't from me, that's from the guy who owned it before me. I bought it, he was using it for target practice. I bought it from him and he was thinking I was going to use it for scrap metal. Oh, I should open that now that it's summertime. And he was shooting at everything. There's a couple bullet holes in the oil cooler. The first one is the oil cooler, so that's hydraulic oil cooling, and then there's the radiator. So the oil cooler was stopping the bullets. So I don't think I had to fix the radiator. I just fixed the oil cooler. I had to bend over. So all these tubes through here is what the oil goes through, and then the fins transfer the heat out. So right there where there's that hole there, I just squished off the tube and then welded it shut. So that's where the bullets went through, or just one bullet. Yeah, that guy was weird. Seemed like an okay guy, but I was like welding the hitch on the front because I towed this back, so like welding the mounts of the hitch, and I heard bang, 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 and he was shooting at a metal plate in his backyard. He had a like a 3/4 inch steel plate. He just had it hanging from a frame, and he was sitting on his backyard shooting the plate from like you know, like 50 feet away. I was like, holy shit, can't believe he hasn't got hit with a ricochet or something. And he had the plate set up at right so if he would have missed the plate, he would have hit his neighbor's house. I just couldn't believe it. The guy was just totally nuts, but for some reason it seemed totally sane to him. I don't know. But other than that, he seemed like an okay guy, but he sold me the machine, so I can't fault him for that, because that machine allowed me to do a lot of things, and I couldn't afford an excavator. And I think I paid $2 grand for it. Not running. I had 2 broken axles, just the axle drive, the shaft inside the axle for the drive. What happened was he pulled it with his Caterpillar without putting it in neutral, and the hydraulic pump was engaged, and it snapped the axles, or he had it spun up in the winter and then popped the clutch or something like that. I can't remember what he said. So it took a little bit of work, but I could still find some axles for it. I took in the shafts and the axle stubs, and they didn't have the right ones at the heavy duty parts place, but I was looking at them. I was looking at some there. I was like, hey, looks like the right size. It has the same bolt pattern. And I was like, hey, this one's probably gonna work. And then he went and looked in his book and he's like, oh yeah, that one will work. And I think I got 2 axles for it for like 300 bucks. The guy gave me a deal. I was like, oh well, I didn't have enough money, so I was like, oh well, I'll just have to buy one. Either when I have some more money, I'll come back and get the other one, because they're being taken over by a like a larger parts place, and the guy that was like running it. So it was like his old boss and then his new boss. His new boss was going to tell him to charge me a shitload of money, and his old boss was going to tell him to, you know, give me a deal on it, like what they used to sell those for. So he's like, oh, here, let me check with my old boss. He says, oh, this new guy, he says, oh yeah, just charge you like $500 an axle. I was like, oh shit, I can't afford that. And so he's like, oh, let me go check with my old boss, because I guess they hadn't quite, you know, the power transfer, they hadn't dotted the I's and crossed the T's on the new ownership yet. So he's like, oh, let me go talk to my old boss. So we went and talked to him, and the guy's like, yeah, you can have it for 300 bucks, both axles. Like, oh, right on, man. You know, so he did me a big solid there, and he also figured out the part number. So he was trying to liquidate all these old axles. So a lot of time, they had a program online where they look online what parts are needed for like what trucks, like who's trying to get these parts. Like they go to the database and say, oh, I don't have that, but I can look to see who's got it, and then they just take like a finder's fee or something off it. So there's all these listings of these part numbers that people need for these used parts, that if it comes up, then the dealer just looks at, oh yeah, I have that, and then they sell it and ship it off to him, kind of thing. So once the guy figured out, hopefully he had some more axles like that, because that was his job. He was trying to get rid of all these old axle parts and, you know, sell them off to where they're needed. Yeah, and I have been having a habit, like those Amazon returns. Like, you know, it's like, oh, $1 for a pump. You know, I can use that for something. A diversion pump for $1. You know, diverts the flow. Wheel spacer, universal wheel spacer. It only spaces it a ½ inch, but you never know if that'll come in handy somewhere. So it's weird. When I have lots of money, I don't deal with, well, when I had lots of money, I wouldn't deal with such a thing. I don't know why you'd need a 1/8 of an inch wheel spacer. Anyway, a universal wheel spacer. I think that'll work for a smart car. Yeah, it might. Might be able to space my rims out a 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, it works right there. So that's cool. If I wanted to, maybe I could space out the front ones. Yeah, I don't know. Not really needed that much, but for $1, somebody probably bought that for like 40 bucks and then returned it. What else we got here? Just got to figure out what's going in with my other tools. And this is, oh yeah, part for my truck, backup camera for when I'm backing up to trailers. I do have a backup camera on it, but it's not a very good one. I gotta find a different spot to mount it, and this one has a really good camera. So I just got one of those little those little cameras that come with the stereos and stuff, and I didn't mount it in the right spot, so I was always having trouble backing up the trailer. I could see the trailer coming in, and I just have, like, it would come in and then it would go past the camera and I wouldn't see it anymore, so I'd have to, and this is a lamp, so that's going to the house. Locking handle, blue screen, and this is what I really wanted. This changing all the U-joints on the, I don't know how many U-joints I changed using a vise. So this is either just for removing ball joints, or it's actually for changing U-joints. Universal ball joint service kit. Oh, okay, well, it's just for ball joints. Looks like somebody used it and then returned it, but everything is there. But for 25 bucks, you know, it's a pretty good deal. Well, that could be why they broke it off. Holy fuck. They didn't show that in the picture. Yeah, they just tightened the shit out of it and broke it off. So that screws in here. So they cross-threaded it and tightened the shit out of it and then broke it off. Yeah, so somebody didn't know how to use this thing properly. So here's the ball joint kit that I do have. And here's the one I just got. There's that one. Oh, that one's in better shape. Here's this one. Mine in the kit was in better shape. It's a little bit different. My bolt is definitely in better shape. Not even going to keep that. That's going in the garbage. Put my bolt in there. And this driver is for something, I don't know what. Oh, that's this thing. That's what broke off there. So that driver's in there like that. That little one's a little bit mucked up. Okay, it's in better shape, so put the mucked up ones in here. My frame's definitely in better shape than that one. Like, holy shit. How hard would you have to be tightening on that to break it like that? The guy either didn't know what he was doing, or that U-joint was in there, or ball joint was in there like super hard. So I think that was a human error type thing. So this is definitely a better kit. Definitely a better kit. Intended use of this tool. This tool is designed to remove and replace ball joints. Do not use this tool outside of the designated intent, or this shit may happen. And it shows you the different variations. And it tells you which vehicles it works on. So yeah, it's cool. So I upgraded from my small little kit here to the big kit, so that's cool. I have more options. There's Bunny. How's it going, Bunny? Good to see you. Okay, so I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put the tanks. Okay, so I got a string line lined up with the edge of the house. So how I did that is I just hooked it on the far end, and I just brought the string line over until this side touched, and I just strung it out farther, and then pushed it back in so it touched. So I'm lined up exactly with the edge of the house. So that's what this line is here. It's the edge of the house. And here's where my weeping tile is coming out. So I'm going to go with the machine. I'm going to set up right here and just start digging the trench for the weeping tile to come out. And my tanks are going to be right here. So this is 20 feet over from the house, and then there's extra 4 feet because that's how far the deck is coming out. But the deck doesn't start till just a little bit before the door. So 24 feet from the house, right there, and then the tank is right here. So I'm going to dig from the weeping tile this way till about right here, so I can run my weeping tile into the tank. And then once I get that trench dug, I'll put my lines in place, I'll fill it back in, and then I'll come from that direction, and then I'll dig out the trench for the tank. But to fill a hole like that back in, you got to drain all the water out. I could just push the dirt back in slowly, and then it'll slowly displace the water. There's not that much water left. The water level went down. But the best way is to drain it out. Drain it each day for a couple days. Let it get really dry, and then put your fill back in there. But I'm just gonna drain it, put the fill back in, and then it'll drain out. Because if the risk is, if you just dump the fill back in there, you'll get like a bubble in there. You get a pocket of water, because it doesn't disperse into the ground that quickly. It takes a little while for the water to leach out. So I'll drain the water, put the fill in, pack it really hard, and then you'll see after a week or so it'll go from a bump to concave, you know, and then you add a little bit more fill and level it out. Once it gets all packed down about the same amount as the dirt around it, then it'll stay at the right level. So start the machine, and I'll probably get this trench dug, and then I'll fill it back in with the pipes there, and then that's probably going to be it for today, because it's already like 8 o'clock. So I got only a couple hours of sunlight left. So I'll get on that, and then I'll be back tomorrow to finish it off with the tank and everything. And then the tank should be dry, because I don't think those tanks are set up enough to start lifting on them. And I really got to be careful lifting it, because if I go pick that up and I break the culvert off, well, that's a whole lot of wasted time. Yeah, it's getting drier. Concrete is gray now. So I dug out some chunks of weeping tile there. I had it coming up out of the ground, and where it was coming up, the angle was too steep. So it kinked in the ground, and it had already broke off. So when I dug it out, it just came with it. So I didn't rip it off. It just came off on its own. It was in the ground, but it had collapsed already. So this stuff's pretty fragile, so I'm gonna dig out where the pocket is by hand. Oh, there's one. So okay, there's them both. So those go straight down. So I just gotta dig it out and get them to come out. Here's my chunk of foams I put in there. That's because I knew I was going to be digging it out with the backhoe, and I didn't want to get the pipe, because I'm really close to the pocket of gravel, and I'm really close to the landscaping wrap pocket of gravel and weeping tile. So I put the foam there to kind of cushion it as I'm bending it up really steep. Hopefully it's not kinked underneath there. We'll see, I guess. Doesn't look to be. Well, that's good. I thought maybe I was getting gophers going down the culvert. I was worried. So I had the angle so steep the ground settled and kinked the pipe off. So that's good. No gophers went down there and made homes. And this bucket I have on the Gradall, it's not really that big. It's only a 24-inch wide bucket. I have another bucket that's about almost 3 feet wide. So you can get all kinds of different size buckets. This is an old bucket from like a, well, I guess another excavator of the same year as this Gradall. But yeah, a 24-inch bucket, and then a little bit wider bucket for doing like sand and stuff is all you really need. 24 inch is really good for footings, really good for putting in pipes and stuff. Just enough room on the sides, you can pack stuff in. You know, I suppose if I just had a single line, I'd want maybe an 8-inch bucket, and that would work just fine too. But there goes my string. Crap. Okay. I dropped some gravel on the road and I got a little bit of the topsoil with it. So that should pack down pretty good over top of the loose sand with the concrete I put there. So should be pretty good. It's getting dark already. I gotta get out of here. Time to go home. But I don't know if you could see that. I got the trench dug. Smoothed it out a bit with the bottom of the bucket. So hopefully my my little ledge doesn't cave in there by tomorrow. Yeah, it's pretty good. The bottom I packed it pretty good, and then I went with the bucket back and forth on the machine, and it's still kind of loose. So I'm not going to use the laser to get the slope. I'm just going to use a 10-foot or a 12-foot 2x6 with a level on it, just to make sure I'm getting the right amount of slope down to the tanks. So right where that piece of rebar is right here, that's where the tank's going to be. So I'll start digging that tomorrow, and then route the solid weeping tile into there, and then I can cover everything back up, and then I'm framing in the house because I got to get on that really soon. I got to have the framing done by the end of the month. Got to.